part of Double P Media, doublepmedia.com.
Rings, exciting and new. Try one on. Evil waits for you. It's Sauron, promising power without a fall. It's Sauron, using the One Ring to rule them all. Set a course for adventure, the ring puts you in a trance.
Welcome back to the Double B.
Double B?
Yeah, that stands for Bustin Blockbusters, and it's part of the Double P.
Double P?
Yeah, we don't ask about Double P around here because, well, actually, Bubba just never really thought that out too well. It could stand, however,
for what?
Priscilla Podcast.
Oh my God!
We have a special podcaster with us that's going to be joining with us to cover the Lord of the Rings. She's much more of a Lord of the Rings expert than me.
Priscilla knows more than you do.
Never.
Yeah, I don't know. I suspect that you are. You know a heck of a lot more, and I've already learned a lot just talking to you in the couple of times that we've talked and through your comments and what have you. So, everybody, I want you to please welcome PriscilaTV is her YouTube handle, and she is the person who puts out great videos regarding a lot of really great franchises, fantasy franchises, horror franchises, all kinds of great stuff. She watches Vikings also, I believe you were into Vikings.
I used to. I was like, actually was my first experience like joining a fandom. It was Vikings.
Yeah.
Like actively, you know, doing content and like engaging with other people. It was Vikings because I study history, and like the first 2 seasons of Vikings, they really, really, really capture the vibe of the period, which is more important than like the details and stuff. And I was very, very happy that like a TV show could do that. And then season 4 came in and it was terrible. So I migrated to Game of Thrones, and then I think maybe I'm cursed because I keep migrating. I keep migrating to these fandoms, and they all like let me down in the end. But I don't know. Now we are here, Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, and I have lots of hopes here for this series. To be honest.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If Lord of the Rings does not satisfy you, it is Priscilla's fault. It is absolutely Priscilla's fault. Couldn't possibly be mine for commenting wrongly about music or anything like that. Couldn't possibly be Coach T's, who will jump in from time to time. Although we're going to try and keep him away. We've had too many complaints about Coach T. So we're going to try and keep him away.
Matt, I think like you can blame everything on me and I will not complain. It's on me. Yeah.
We're not going to blame you for anything, Priscilla. All we're going to blame you for is knowing more about the Lord of the Rings than we do. And that's fine. We want you to be sure to subscribe to Priscilla TV's YouTube. She does great videos. Now, granted,
in Portuguese.
This woman is multilingual. So she is going to be giving you a whole lot of information in Portuguese.
In Portuguese. Yeah.
But what I found out, and the way that I watch your videos, is I just hit that little auto translate thing and switch to English, and it usually translates out pretty well.
Yeah.
If you just go over there and subscribe, you're already subscribed here to the Double P, right? You better be subscribed to the Double P YouTube, because otherwise, why are we even doing these videos? And if you want to talk to us about anything regarding the Lord of the Rings, as you watch this new season that's coming out on Amazon, tweet to @BustBlockbuster on Twitter. You can send emails to mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. That's mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. Or you can simply go to the website that I have, mattsaudioblog.com, mattsaudioblog.com. But if you want to talk to the bosses, the ones upstairs, that Bubba and Catfish, then you need to tweet to @PHQ on Twitter. Use that same handle for Facebook, facebook.com/PHQ. And their website is the word double, the letter P, the word media. That's also how you find the YouTube channel. But if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you've already found it. Just hit that subscribe button right there as well. I've got all of the podcast plugging out of the way. That's a double P. See, that there were so many double P's that Bubba missed out on.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's exactly why I think that there was just way too much attention paid to Packed Podcasts. I mean, what the heck kind of a network name is that? I'll always get in trouble for that.
That's not my fault. That I know it's not my fault.
I know, but I'm going to complain about it anyway.
You should.
I should. Actually, I should be thankful to Bubba. Nobody would know me on this channel if it wasn't for him just being nice enough to let me put videos on here.
Yeah, he's so famous that he lends his like famous status to his friends and like people that come along his way. You know, he's like a true hero.
That is absolutely correct, Priscilla, because as we all know, he bought his house, his esteemed mansion, based on the YouTube subsidies alone. That's what
my God. I should be on YouTube. No, I am on YouTube.
Oh, wait a minute.
Sorry.
You are on YouTube. You've bought a house too, right? You've bought a house several throughout the world, of course.
Yeah, I have several houses, but I didn't buy them with YouTube revenue, unfortunately, because they pay very little for Brazil and, you know, other countries. Unfortunately, we are not worthy that much for YouTube.
Well, maybe we should just tell everybody what we're going to be doing as we cover the Lord of the Rings this time around. We're going to be obviously doing things in the double P format, which is different from what I usually do in my podcast. A little bit longer form. Usually I do longer discussion form, and we will have discussions here. But we will be doing recaps, and we'll start off with a rating. We'll give you a rating from 1 to 10, just like Bubba and Catfish do on their other podcasts. There will be a double. So like Dastardly Dwarfs, that will be a double D. So we give something like 9 out of 10 double Ds, or perhaps double H's. Double
H's.
Horrible Harfoots.
Oh no! Don't say that.
Don't say that.
They're not. No, this is my.
Let's wait until we watch an episode before we decide.
Yeah, this is my area. Hating Harfoots is my area. I think you should. The opposite.
So we save that double H for you. Then that's
exactly. Yeah, okay. It's mine.
All right, but we will be giving you recaps of the episode, kind of the after shows format. We'll be offering commentary about each of those events along the way. I will be giving a musical analysis of Bear McCreary's score, because that's really the only thing that I'm halfway decent at.
No, you're 100% decent at this, not halfway.
Well, I like go off on tangents sometimes, and nobody gets interested in those. But the one thing one thing I can guarantee you that I'm good at is giving you musical analysis of a score. So stick around for those. We will also be doing a segment that is famous around here on the Double P Network called What's Worse?
What's Worse?
Where we pick a scenario and then we have to argue opposite sides, and then we will put it on a poll and let the people on our Twitter poll and let the people decide who was actually worse as we argue them. Here's the thing about that one, Priscilla, is the fact that if I put a scenario out to you, you get to pick which side first, which then forces me to argue the other side, even if I agree with you. It's like old high school debate team. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But
we never had that in Brazil, but like, you know, we watch movies, and it seems to be like very a strong tradition, let's say that. And I think it will help you in the end.
Those are what you're going to get every single week from us. You get those segments every single week from us. And one thing, of course, Priscilla, is that we're going to get 2 episodes of the show in the first week. So I think or maybe 9 p.m. Eastern, I think is what they said, is when they're going to release the first 2 episodes on
I am in Berlin, so I think it's September the 2nd, I think.
Right. It's early morning, September 2nd.
Yeah.
For you. But for us in the U.S., 9 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. is when you will be able to watch both episodes. So we're going to record things on Fridays, You'll probably get everything on the YouTube on Saturdays. I'll try and get things out as quickly as I can on Fridays with our commentary in terms of the audio form of the podcast. There are some other things that we are going to be doing as we go along as well. These won't necessarily appear every single week, but they will appear sometimes even maybe sporadic, like spontaneously. But we have, as I said, Priscilla is very good at knowing about things about the show. So if there's something that really piques her interest about a book problem that the show is not successfully addressing, you may get a reader's rampage. I myself I mean, I've read about the first age of the world in the Silmarillion. I have not read much about the second age, and I know that some of the material, we can probably discuss this right now, some of the material that we would think would be from the Silmarillion that's going to possibly be in the show actually will not, because of the rights. Is
The
that
rights,
correct?
yeah. It's very strange because we spent a couple of years in the dark about what the series would be about. We didn't even know the characters that would be in. We didn't know the material that would be adapted. And then I think this year we had a Vanity Fair article. The way it was written, it made you feel that they would be adapting the Silmarillion. But then they had to do a second part of this article where they had to actually come forward, the showrunners, Payne specifically, I think. They said they have the rights for the Hobbit and the trilogy. And some sort of appendices too. They had the rights, if I understood correctly, but not the Silmarillion. They don't have the rights for the Silmarillion. And in their negotiations, what they can do is actually fill kind of the gaps that, for instance, you have in the trilogy, in the movies, you have some sort of prologue with Elrond and Gil-galad and the Last Alliance, if I'm not mistaken. No? Right. It has been a long time since I watched the movies, but I don't know how long it was, this prologue, but there was it was established that Elrond was there. For instance, Gil-galad was dying, and so, and they have the right to adapt this, but expand, if it makes sense. So they have the right to adapt the trilogy and the Hobbit and expand upon what was explained as a background there. But they cannot do a retell of the story because this was already told. Right. So basically they are filling the gaps, and they cannot, for instance, in reference to the Silmarillion, they cannot come up and resurrect somebody who died in the Silmarillion to the second age, for instance. Right? They cannot do that. Right. So they cannot contradict the canon in this sense, but they don't have the right to the Silmarillion.
Okay. So that's going to be odd for people who have read that book and are expecting, but nonetheless, I'm expecting a pretty decent story to be told. It sounds to me like that these rights fall in another thing that we'll be talking about in a little bit, but they're rights to not just those particular properties, but they're also rights to those characters, so to speak. And that's what gives them the freedom to bring Gil-galad into this story, to bring Elrond into this story, and to focus the story, it looks like to me, specifically on Galadriel, who really wasn't in the Silmarillion. She was more created specifically for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so now they get to kind of, by being able to pull her back into that time, they can use that as a focus point of expansion, I would think.
I mean, to be fair, Galadriel was indeed in Middle-earth, second age. No, she was there, so they are not just picking somebody just for name recognition. No, she was there. Right. But as you said, she's not really present in the story, as we know, but we know very little about what really happened in the Second Age.
That's true. That's
No?
true.
So if they keep filling the gaps with things, for instance, which like the controversy is that Galadriel is not supposed to be a warrior. She's supposed to be this wise elf lady in the woods and stuff. But this comes from, if I'm not mistaken, some sort of Tolkien. He was always revising the canon. He was always like writing and then expanding and then changing ideas or something. So at some point he wrote in a letter that Galadriel was as strong as a male was, and she was athletic and she would join melees or something with other males, and sometimes she would win, So they pick up this part and they expand it to put Galadriel apparently fighting Sauron, or Sauron, like rather not fighting Sauron, but like looking for Sauron, looking
Hunting
for
him,
this
yeah.
evil, hunting him in a more militaristic way. And they are also plotting to use the fact that her brothers died in war to prop her up, which is canon. Her brothers did die in the war,
Right.
in First Age. But what makes like this difficult is because Galadriel was supposed to be married at this point of the story, and she was supposed already to not be so focused in this in Lindon with Gil-galad and stuff. But as I said, it's a second era, and they are condensing this like thousands of years in 200 years. So they are taking liberties. Yeah, it's not that they're inventing stuff, but they are definitely taking some liberties to tell a story that was not told.
Right. And I'm perfectly cool with that. I'm don't know how you feel about that. Are you okay with that?
I am completely okay with that.
Excellent. So that's one of the things that we might be talking about if something goes awry from what we've read in the books or whatever. Another segment that we might be doing will be probably she's already kind of called her corner on this, but the double H, the Harfoot haters.
Harfoot haters.
Yeah. I believe personally, and I'm just going to stick this in your crawl right now. I'm going to say that I believe that they are going to be the heart and the soul of this particular story, the same way that the hobbits are in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. If it's not for the courage of these little people who shouldn't be able to do anything, then it will be important. And I feel that that's, while we know that hobbits really, or even much mention of their predecessors, are in any of the Silmarillion or in any of that story, I feel like that is the kind of the heart of the theme of what Tolkien was doing a lot of with his story, is like, don't count anybody out. Even a little guy can help.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's the theme that comes across, and people kind of ignore the semantics of them. But I can almost guarantee that they will also be somewhat annoying, the same way that Merry and Pippin were to me.
Yeah. So, like when I say that I'm hating the Harfoots, it's like it's not. I'm joking. Okay. It's not. The series has not premiered. I cannot judge the Harfoots. That's all. However, and I think you are right, and I hope you're right, and I hope that it will be well executed. Because they are created for the show. It's one of the only things that they completely, I won't say that diverge, because we don't know what the predecessors of the Hobbits were, but the Harfoots are completely is a creation for the show. So if it's not like, if the audience don't start loving the Harfoots very soon, I fear that we might have like a Harfoot genocide at some point, because because they don't, that thing that we discussed, that they cannot contradict the canon, they cannot kill somebody who has been alive. Well, the Harfoots are 100% their creation, so they can do whatever they want with the Harfoots, right?
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
so that's like, to be honest, that's, I'm worried because they have like, I don't know, 2 or 3 dwarfs in the main cast, and they have 6 Harfoot. So that's what is more like, I would like to see more dwarfs and less Harfoot, if it's possible. But as I said, the series has not premiered, so I cannot judge. It's just some sort of impression that you have from the trailers, because the first couple of trailers were very focused on the Harfoots, to the point where, like, who are these people? I don't know these people. No, you kept asking. But the last one, the last trailer, the trailer we got from the Comic-Con, it seemed more even-handed. Like, they were focusing more on the plot, and this made me more hopeful that, as you said, that the Harfoots are not there to detract, but actually to add some layers. Which you're completely right. That Tolkien really he had this with the hobbits, that they should not be the heroes of the story, but they are.
Right.
Because people focus on the elves and how perfect they are, and how strong and how handsome and whatever, but they are not the heroes of the story.
Very true. And I think that you're right in terms of the trail, the Comic-Con trailer specifically started to give us a focus outside of the Harfoots. I maybe one of the reasons why they did this, and again, this is just reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation. Reckless speculation.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that maybe they did that because they wanted to kind of do a soft launch. It's like these characters are going to be here. And then as time progressed and we get closer to the premiere, they said, okay, but this is what the story is about. You are going to see Numenor. You are going to see the Southlands. You are going to see elves. So hopefully that was just their kind of approach, because they did get a lot of resistance regarding, especially
They're
that very
still
first
getting
trailer.
a lot of resistance.
Well,
I think they're still getting a lot of resistance, but I also think that, this rant culture or whatever is actually very tiresome, and people are getting a little bit tired. Like these rant channels that would like come up with this 1 hour long videos of like a guy just talking, like, just ranting, as I said, over a property. I think this is kind of not coming to an end, unfortunately, but it's getting less traction nowadays. We spent, I don't know, 1 year with this sort of like discussion in the fandom, and now people are really getting excited. And sometimes when somebody just enters the discussion to say, oh, they are doing everything wrong, it's all about the woke agenda or whatever, people are like, oh, come on, just let's hope the series is good. I would love to enter in a discussion, like really about serious discussion sometimes about like, how can you adapt the property well? What can you do to remain faithful and yet to create on it? Because what people don't seem to understand, which is like really basic, is that you interact with a book in a way that you're not interacting with a movie. So the way you respond to a book is different the way you respond into a movie. Like, you can read a book with 100% of the characters are not even terrestrial, they are like aliens or whatever, and you can still have some sort of emotional connection to them because you are aware of their feelings. You're reading about their feelings, you're reading about their actions, you know what is going on in their head. So their appearance doesn't matter in a sense when you're reading a book. When you're watching a movie, it's show not tell, really. No, it's the medium of show not tell. So you have to see them, you have to see you in them, and you have to interact in another way because you're not inside their heads. You cannot read their motivations. You have to see what they're doing. And in this sense, it's very difficult if you come to the conclusion that you cannot 100% faithfully go from word to movies. You cannot do that. But how can you have this dialogue? How can you successfully do that in a way that you remain faithful, and yet it lends to you to acknowledge it. And even that, like, what fans don't understand is like when someone like Amazon buys a property, they want to expand the fandom. They don't necessarily want to create this, I don't know, $100 million series just for the fans. They want to expand the fans. They want to create. They want to add on to these numbers, and to add to this number, they have to make some concessions. So all I wanted to know and discuss is one: will they be successful? How are they successful? Or if they fail, what has gone wrong? And that's why all this ranting and this negativity, it's very emotional. It's emotional reaction, which I understand. People are attached to the property. But also when you start to speaking with some of them, you have the impression that they actually are not that big fans. They are just,
they're there for the purpose of serving themselves by issuing a take.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
And I hope this does not make the series stand out for the wrong reasons. That's all, So I want to go and I want to watch and I want to enjoy. And if I don't, I will say. If I say, okay, no, it's really bad, we are going to say it's really bad. I don't see the problem in that, right?
Well, Priscilla, as you know, I've never rated an episode of television below a 7 out of 10, no matter how terrible it is.
Really?
So I'm the I guess you didn't know. My grade, I have a large grading curve when it comes to that. I have to do that because sometimes I am faced with people who actually have legitimate criticisms and will give things a low rating. So I always instantly veer the other way and have just made a rule for myself: nothing below a 7. But if you get a 7, or if for God forbid you would get below a 7, oh my goodness, that must be a really bad episode of TV. So at least in my opinion. At any rate, so we both hope that we're going to be pleasantly surprised by this series, despite anything, and we understand fandom's passions for things. One thing that we will do from time to time as well is we will have a wheel of topics. Now, granted, this wheel is very tiny. It's hard to fit subjects that we put on this wheel. It's hard to read them. It's hard to fit them on the wheel. It's hard to see them. And so oftentimes I will have to
a microscopic wheel.
Yeah, and we'll just have to spin it and see where it lands. I will have to rely on others to help me read and see which topic it lands on, because I'll be peering at it. Sometimes I might be able to identify it if it's a small worded topic and I can see it on there. But let's give the wheel a spin just to give an example of what we're doing. I can't see that. It's
you can't see where it landed.
I can't see it. Priscilla, can you read what topic it landed on?
Can I? Let me see. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Anticipation building, only a couple of weeks away. How excited are we? What has made us excited and what hasn't?
Yeah. We've actually already discussed a lot of that already.
So you should spin again, perhaps?
Spin it again? All right. It's a very tiny wheel. I can't read it. Can you tell me what it says?
Okay, hot Sauron going to happen? Yes or no?
Hot Sauron. Is it going to happen? Yes or no? Okay. Now, I have a couple of qualifying questions here. Hopefully, I won't sound too dumb. But are we talking about the fact that Sauron is so hot that you can't touch him, and like his mark leaves like that? Or are we talking about the fact that Sauron takes an appearance in the Second Age sometimes, either to hide himself or to make himself appealing to those so that he can make his master plan? He makes himself look very appealing to everybody else in Middle Earth. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that's what we are talking about.
What do you think?
Well, we have Numenor in the series. and we I think it's confirmed that we are going to watch the fall of Numenor, right? So it's not a spoiler. Okay. So apparently, before his Numenorian adventure, Sauron was canonically very handsome, very like extremely good looking.
Mm.
As in, he was more good looking than an elf or many of his order. Also, he was considered like good looking by everybody.
Now wait a minute. So you're talking
he was
about
also a shapeshifter, of course. He took other shapes and forms, but he was canonically hot.
Okay, so he was canonically hot. So he was like no matter what, I mean, his original form is somebody that the girls are not going to swipe the wrong direction on Tinder.
Yeah, or the boys, for that
Or the
matter.
boy. Well, or anybody, yeah.
Anybody, yeah. People were like, oh, yeah, this is a
Right.
hot. And the thing is, what I read that there is like they already have an actor to play Sauron, or his alter ego Anata, the Lord of the Gifts. And I searched him online, as you should. It's scientific. It's nothing. It's nothing like I had no other intentions other than to verify their ability to stick to canon. And I'm not sure. I mean,
now wait a minute. So are you placing a judgment? Are you saying hot Sauron is not hot? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that hot Sauron is hot, but it's not. He's a very specific kind of hot that you would have to be a teenager to really appreciate how hot he was. So,
oh my God. They've casted one of the Jonas Brothers as Sauron?
No. The actor is quite young looking. That's what I'm saying. He looks very young.
Okay.
And if we are going like, they have this all sorts of discussion that what kind of actor should be playing elves and what age the characters playing elves should have. And the guy who's supposedly playing Sauron, he is well below this age, good looking as, but also we have to figure out that Sauron is shaping his form. So he's changing. So maybe he's not the one who will think he is. Maybe the series will be doing the who is Sauron all along. Where can you find Sauron?
Well, that's the thing. It's like the whole hiding under your nose thing is an appealing storytelling thing. But
yeah.
will you tolerate 6 to 7 episodes of a season of having to ask who is Sauron?
I don't think so, honestly.
Yeah,
No, I think
I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like concerned about it. I think if hot Sauron, he should be front and center from from middle to the end, from the middle point of the series to the end. We have to have some sort of like at least sense of who Sauron will be and what his preferred form is, because we need to actually build some sort of like like emotional attachment, I don't know, to the villain too, right?
Oh no. So okay, so let me put out another scenario. What if it turns into something like Breaking Bad? We know who Sauron is. But we have to be tense because he just gets out of getting away with it every time.
That I could go for it. Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, how long can you stretch this, right? Because at some point you have to say that's Sauron.
That's true.
And at some point, Sauron has to lose his looks.
That's true.
That's what I'm getting at. You have to establish hot Sauron before Sauron loses his looks, because
so we must have hot Sauron before we have not hot Sauron.
Yeah, before we have like a strange eye in the sky Sauron,
Yes. Well, that occurs in the prologue of the Lord of the Rings book and movie, I guess.
That's the thing. How can you go from one of the most beautiful beings in the whole planet to being like,
Oh, that's an
Sauron?
easy one. Evil corrupts, Priscilla. Evil just well, he'll be he'll be super hot, and everybody, boys and girls alike, will want him. And because
Uh-huh.
his intentions are evil, it'll just
Yeah.
melt off of him, like the archaeologist in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even to do that, you have to establish hot Sauron before. So that's what I like, the confusing part. That's why the wheel was asking, is he going to happen? Like the question is actually, will they succeed in establish Sauron as this powerful mastermind that's actually superior to everybody and deceive everybody and go from one place to the other, changing his form and his appearance and convincing everybody of doing his bidding, and for them to turn into this presence, this malevolent presence. So this is quite like, it. You can read in the books, but I'm curious to see how they are going to do like visually, to be honest with you.
I agree. I think it'll be intriguing to see how they approach this.
Yeah. And
Now,
this is one of the things, like I was reading about the thing where they approached Peter Jackson. Amazon had approached. Did you see that?
yes, I did. Where I guess in an interview he said, "Well, nobody ever really came and talked to me about it."
Yeah.
Right?
And apparently, in the article I was reading, it came from the state, from Tolkien's heirs. They didn't
They
want
didn't
Peter
want
Jackson.
him involved.
Yeah, because they felt that, especially with the Hobbit, that it was that Peter Jackson had somewhat cheapened the
So they
this facet, the
didn't like his
philosophical.
adaptation of The Hobbit, probably is my guess.
Yeah,
I think
no,
they were
apparently,
probably okay
yeah,
with Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit probably tested their patience. That would
yeah.
be my bet. I mean, again, reckless speculation, but
Reckless speculation. Reckless speculation.
That he diluted the property, like the whole philosophical questions and the spirituality, to something that was more palatable to teenagers and children, because it's like it was a book that it was one book that you could be adapting in 1 hour and a half, 2 hour movie, good, and you stretch it to, I don't know, three hours movies.
yeah,
You
3
know.
of them. It just
So
I was even a little miffed at that.
yeah,
Although I did
everybody,
like
huh?
Smaug. I did like Smaug in The Hobbits. I thought that Smaug was cool. I love Benedict Cumberbatch though. So I mean, he's one of my favorite actors. So in Sherlock Holmes and as Doctor Strange in the MCU. So
And they gave us the perfect elf, which was Lee Pace. He was the perfect elf.
that wheel's tiny.
Okay.
It just makes a quick spin, and then what did it land
Yeah.
on, Priscilla?
Oh, new acquisition and management of some Tolkien rights. About Embracer is the name of the company.
Yes.
Buys rights to Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, board games, video games, and movies.
Right.
So,
And that is from Saul Zaentz Company. And this is the company that have been managing these particular rights for since like 1978, I believe. And
really?
yeah, they were the ones who gave New Line Cinema, and thus Peter Jackson, the rights to make those films, The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbits. But they were taken over by this company called Embracer. And according to this release, Embracer is not only purchasing these rights, but they're also going to be working on trying to give new licenses for new properties, not just video games and board games like the Zaentz Company had been doing for a while, except for the movies, but also for new movies, which might include like Gandalf or Aragon, or even I think Galadriel was mentioned, Elrond was mentioned. So this is that same lease of characters. But here's my thing, and I'm going to pose this question to you.
To me, okay.
Because I feel like we've seen so much of this franchise brand extension in the especially in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, the MCU and Disney and Star Wars, that's been going
The
on longer than
Marvelization.
Yeah, but the whole the pandemic, to me, I feel like, because there was so much streaming times going on, really inspired these businesses to start really focusing on how they can really expand brands. And this seems like, and I'm sorry for sounding cynical, but this seems like Embracer just saw what Amazon paid in order to be able to do this a couple of years ago, and said, we got to work into getting these rights so that we can charge someone else that kind of money. Even though Bezos is going to be the only person still for a while who not only can afford, but will be willing to afford those kinds of prices. $250 million for rights of stuff that really they have to kind of work around. That's ridiculous to me. But you can guarantee that Embracer will do the same thing to the next person. That's, again, me being cynical. Now that I've said all of that, what do you think?
Well, like, I was reading about it, and for instance, Amazon has the rights for the series, so they don't have the right for developing any TV series, for instance. It's movies, board games.
Oh, okay. That makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you read between the line, theme parks too, this kind of thing, because they are talking merchandising and stuff. And I was reading about the company that they bought, that was like Middle Earth Enterprises, that was actually owned by this other company, the Saul Zaentz Company.
Right.
And what struck me, it was that the Middle Earth Company, they had the rights to the names of characters, but not and phrases and some sort of, but not exactly the books. They didn't have the rights for the books. They had the rights for like some events that are mentioned in the books, or like, I think a lawyer could explain this better, obviously, but just by reading the Wikipedia article, I got confused. So like, there are like the books, there are the rights to the books, and there are the rights to the characters in the books.
Okay.
And there are the rights for movies to be made, and the rights for the movies already made. So the movies already made, nobody touched it. So what they have the right is for to make new movies.
Right.
Hence why they want to make an Aragorn movie, because the Lord of the Ring trilogy was already made. The Hobbits too.
Right.
And Silmarillion is nowhere to be seen. Is that? So they're all talking about the Hobbit and the trilogy.
Who's gonna get the rights to the first age? Because
apparently nobody.
I mean, I think that and it seems to me, perhaps, I mean, as I looked at some of this trailer stuff for the Rings of Power series, what I saw in some of that might have been some more of Wrath stuff, but then again, it could have simply been the Fall of Numenor stuff that you see in there. I'm thinking specifically of that shot of all of the bodies, where I originally thought that they were in the air, but I think that they're kind of underwater, and you can see
they're underwater. Yeah.
Yeah. So that seems to me more like a Numenor thing. But if you're going to talk about Finrod, Galadriel's brother,
we have to talk about
that was
First
during
Age.
the War of Wrath, right? The 40-year war between the elves and Morgoth and his armies.
This was like, Finrod was the elf that was closest to men.
Okay.
In the First Age, because the whole thing was that, and this was already established in the trailer when Galadriel says that the world was so young before there was a sun and a moon.
Right.
Because this was before men were awake. The elves woke before, and then some went to Valinor, which is their blessed realm, and some stay in Middle Earth. But men only were they only came to be as a species when the sun appeared, basically, because canonically we need sun. This is actually, it's an early version of the legendarium, but anyway, we do need sunlight. And Finrod was, I think, the first elf who met with the elves from Valinor, okay, because men at that point had already met some elves in the east, probably. But Finrod was the one who met the men first, and he played for them because they were scared, and he got attached to men. And when you get too attached to men, tragedy comes to your door. So at some point, in a couple of 100 years later, a couple of centuries later, a guy comes knocking to Finrod's door. Can you help me get this girl? And Finrod says, yes, of course. And they go on an adventure, and Finrod dies in this adventure. So we saw Finrod actually fighting in a war in the trailer. And the trailer gives the impression that Finrod died there, but then you see Finrod and Galadriel mourning him, and he has some scars that if he was
and there's a
attacked
story
by
about
wolves.
what happened there.
And there's a story, exactly. And this is all in the Silmarillion, so they technically cannot go too deep into that, but they can, of course,
they can acknowledge its existence,
exactly.
I suppose.
Yeah, they can say, hey, this happened. Two people talking, this happened, a flashback. They can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel okay, even now that you've siphoned through the lawyer speak? Do you feel okay with Embracer taking this over? Do you feel like it'll be good for the Lord of the Rings fandom or not?
I have no idea. And the thing is, when they started announcing that they HBO was getting into the franchising, Marvelization with A Song of Ice and Fire, it felt like very expected. It felt like something a company should do because other companies are doing. And like in the business world, if somebody's doing something, they're always coming somebody. Yeah, everybody's out trying to outdo this person or do something that knock off or something. But there is not that much place for innovation as it is. Like HBO had been the network known for innovating. They brought us Game of Thrones, which was a game changer, right? I don't know if you agree that. And now they are kind of following the suit of others. So when you hear this news that a company that's actually not a studio, they make games, right? Both board games,
a big part of their and they just another portion of their company actually just manages licenses. It's almost kind of like being an agent. So,
and if like I do, and which is something that movie studios tend to ignore, that actually in the entertainment industry, the biggest one is the gaming. Gaming is bigger than film right now, music altogether. It makes more sense that a company that deals with games would buy the rights, actually, to be honest, than a movie studio or a network. Right. Because we have to remember that Lord of the Rings is the OG, no? So you can do so much with Lord of the Rings. And so far, I was actually very happy because they were not overloading us or overwhelming us with all these products. Like every 10 years, you have something coming from the franchise. Now you have the first trilogy, and then you have a time, and then you have the second trilogy, and then you have now a series. So I was actually happy, but I kind of, oh, this cannot continue to do like this. No, it's continue to go on. No, something will have to change because the industry has changed, and this is just like it's just how the business operates right now, to be honest. So I will expect in the coming years a thematic park, a Lord of the Rings thematic park. I will expect more books, not more books, but like cards, collectibles. I will expect movies, yeah. But this is an area where I think they probably will have to partner with a studio to do this correctly, because they are like known for like licensing, you said, and games. So I don't know if they have any experience making movies. It's a different product. So
well,
they might...
that's the other point, though, Priscilla, is like they don't necessarily have to. They can just now let studios come up, just like New Line did originally with the Lord of the Rings and whatever. Right. So Amazon Studios can come in and say, hey, we'd really like to do a Gandalf movie for our Prime Video. Exclusive.
That's what I meant when they need to partner up with a movie studio or a network to do it, because
they're
they
just
don't
going to
have
sell them to them. They're going to say, sure.
Oh, you mean
that.
You mean
$750 million. Here you go.
Because they have this kind of deals that like, okay, you can do it, and I have, I don't know, 10% of the profits. They can do that too, no?
Yeah, they could do that too. They could.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be very rich.
Yeah, and they've definitely made with an OG franchise like the Lord of the Rings. They definitely made a business decision that will be at least popular for a while, or a franchise that's at least popular for a while. Priscilla, are there? I can't see that we are there any topics left that we haven't talked about, or should I spin the wheel again, or do we not need to?
I think you should. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think we cover all the wheel.
Is the wheel completely covered now?
I mean, no, maybe not, but not directly, but indirectly, because we tend to go on tangents. So.
So you're saying that we covered all the topics that are on the wheel, even though we didn't spin all the topics that were on the wheel.
Yeah, I feel that we were pretty like thorough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, we probably should wrap up this podcast so that folks can get ready. Remember, September 1st, 9 p.m. Eastern time, a little early in the morning, everywhere from the UK eastward. But here in the United States, 9 p.m. Eastern time, you get 2 episodes. We will cover both episodes. You'll get that podcast in audio form, probably sometime later that Friday night, because we'll record on Fridays. We want your feedback at Blockbuster on Twitter, mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. You can leave comments also at mattsaudioblog.com. You can also leave comments on our YouTubes at Double P Media. Just search for YouTube/C/the word double, the letter P, the word media, and you can find it there. Subscribe. Bubba needs subscribers because he's got to continue to finance his mansion of a house. And
but, have you been in Bubba's mansion?
I have not been. Are you kidding me? I'm a lowlife around here. I don't get invited to the big soirees. That's for Catfish and his gang.
There are not like end of the year parties or something for the minions.
No holiday parties, no end of the year celebrations, nothing.
Really?
The company the company just says, "Hey, here's a fish," and then they move on.
Okay.
So anyway, Priscilla, I want to thank you for joining me. You'll be with us each and every single podcast, but you'll also be doing your own coverage. Is that correct? On your own YouTube channel?
Yeah, there. And I also, I'm going to return to with my partnership with another channel that is much bigger than us in Brazil, from Universo 42, also. from Carlos, my friend Carlos. So basically, Fridays we are going to do our own podcast with Matt, this guy.
Me?
Yeah. So, and Friday too, I will be on my channel, like doing a live reaction, hopefully with people. Sometimes, you know,
So
this
those will
doesn't
be
work.
live to YouTube, so people can comment into the chat and talk
Yeah,
talk with you in
exactly.
person.
And
Excellent.
Saturday, I will be joining Carlos in his, like, we are going to be 1 week in this channel and 1 week in my channel. So
Nice.
to discuss. So Friday and Saturdays, I will be talking about Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Hopefully less confused than today, because English is not my native
Well, she
language.
did very well, in
I'm
my
very
opinion.
sorry for my accent and everything. But anyway,
I don't think anybody's complaining. They would much rather hear you talk, despite any accent that you may have or any trouble of English, rather than hear me talk and spill nonsense out of my mouth.
I think you speak beautifully, and I look forward to your musical analysis, actually, which is the main thing. People watch you and listen to you to hear and listen to you speaking about music and the scores. And so far, for my untrained eyes and ears, I think the score seems legit. Thank you, Matt, for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to return. And hopefully, we have good things to talk about.
Hopefully, we do have good things to talk about. This is Matt and Priscilla. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Part of Double P Media, doublepmedia.com.